Abortion refers to the deliberate ending of the life of a fetus from the womb so that it doesn't result in the birth of the child. Abortion is currently legal in Britain before 24 weeks of pregnancy. This date is based on the principle that after 24 weeks, the baby is viable and could survive independently of the womb should it be born. Two doctors must consent to the procedure of abortion by deciding whether there would be a risk to the mother's physical or mental health should the pregnancy continue. In very rare circumstances, abortion after the 24-week cut-off period is allowed, but this must be due to severe fetal abnormality or grave risk to the life of the mother. The NHS estimates that 1 in 3 women in the UK will have an abortion in their lifetime. Abortion is an ethical issue for religious and non-religious believers because it inevitably involves the destruction of life. However, one important consideration when assessing the morality of abortion is the question of when life does actually begin. There are many different opinions on when life officially begins or is recognised as a life. Some suggestions are as follows. Some claim that life begins at conception as soon as the sperm meets the egg. This is a popular view in the Catholic Church. Some claim that it's when a fetus can feel pain, when it moves for the first time, when the first heartbeat begins, or the point of ensoulment when the soul enters the body. In Islam, this is believed to be around 120 days. It could be when the fetus has the first brain activity, or for some it's the point of viability at 24 weeks. This is commonly accepted in contemporary society. The attitudes towards abortion generally fall into two main categories, pro-life and pro-choice. Pro-life refers to the view that abortion is always wrong and that every individual has the right to life. They will try and preserve life at all costs, even when the fetus might have disabilities or a reduced quality of life. For them, every child and fetus is sacred. On the other hand, pro-choice refers to the view that women should be able to choose what happens to their body, including the choice of whether or not to have an abortion. This doesn't mean that they promote or advocate abortion, but instead believe that we should be able to make the decision for ourselves. For example, if the child will have a poor quality of life, or if the pregnancy is a result of a rape, pro-choice people may argue that it's the mother's choice of whether to continue with that pregnancy. The Catholic Church and other Orthodox denominations tend to be pro-life. For the Catholic Church, abortion is always wrong because it goes against the sanctity of life and the Ten Commandments. For Catholics, life begins at conception, and every child is planned and designed by God even before they're conceived. As such, for many literal Catholics and Christians, abortion is equivalent to murder, and it would go against the special relationship between the fetus and God. For them, the fetus has the same rights as every other person in God's creation. This links to what is said in Jeremiah 1, where it says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you." The Catholic Church, led by the Pope, have published many documents outlining their view on a range of ethical issues, including abortion. In one catechism of the Catholic Church, it says, "From the first moment of his or her existence, a human being must be recognised as having the same rights as a person, among which is the inviolable right of every innocent being to life." Furthermore, traditional Catholics argue that we have a duty to reproduce and believe that every sexual act should be open to new life. Abortion undermines this purpose. In Genesis 1, we're told to be fruitful and multiply. This is supported further by the theory of natural law created by St. Thomas Aquinas. This theory states that we have an absolute rule to reproduce and preserve life or defend the innocent. Even in cases of abuse, rape or illness, abortion is not allowed as God's word is absolute. The arguments are less clear-cut in the Protestant Church. Some Protestants may be pro-life, whilst others may be pro-choice. However, they generally tend to be more relativist in their approach to moral decision-making. On the majority of occasions, they see abortion as wrong, but there are times and situations where it may be a more loving option to allow abortion. The General Synod that governs the Church clarifies what they mean by this. They argue that whilst abortion can't be allowed for social reasons, it can be performed for some limited reasons, such as the fetus having a low quality of life. They also recognise that it's currently permitted under UK law, which could mean that abortion is acceptable if needed. The Protestant Church tends to take into account the quality of life of both mother and baby. For example, if the mother's been raped or if the child will have a poor quality of life, then they argue abortion could be justified on compassionate grounds. They're inspired by the example of Jesus, who prioritised compassion and agape. In John 13, Jesus said, "A new commandment I give you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, so must you love one another." Many Protestants refer to the theory of situation ethics devised by Joseph Fletcher. Fletcher promoted the importance of quality of life and emphasised love should be the only consideration when making moral decisions. He said that the only ruling norm of Christian decision-making is love. Joseph Fletcher was very outspoken about quality of life being more important than sanctity of life. He said we need to educate people to the idea that quality of life is more important than mere length of life. Our cultural tradition holds that life has absolute value, but that's really not good enough anymore. Sometimes no life is better. In Islam, life is sacred and should not be destroyed except for a just cause. The Quran doesn't explicitly refer to abortion, but there are many teachings that could be applied. The general attitude amongst Muslims is that all life is sacred because it's been created by Allah, and only He has the right to take it away. In the Quran it says, "It is Allah who gives you life, then gives you death." Muslims recognise that all children are a gift from Allah, and that Muslims shouldn't try to intervene in Allah's plan. In Surah 42 of the Quran it says, "He bestows children male or female according to His will, and He leaves barren whom He will." As such, it's not for us to control when having children is convenient. All children should be seen as a blessing and a gift from Allah. In Islam, abortion for purely economic reasons, like not being able to afford the child, is forbidden in the Quran. In Surah 17 it says, "Do not destroy your offspring for fear of poverty. It is we who provide for them and for you. Surely destroying them is a great sin." Whilst the majority of Muslims are pro-life and do not agree with abortion, there are some Muslims who believe abortion can be justified under some circumstances. This includes if the mother's life is at risk, or if the child will be born with conditions that reduces their quality of life. Where possible, this decision will be made prior to ensoulment, as the fetus is not yet considered to be a person. So what do humanists think about abortion? Well, like any moral decision, humanists will try to use logic, reason and evidence to make their decisions. They often try and weigh up the best possible option for everybody involved, maximising kindness and limiting harm. They tend to adopt an approach of moral relativism where they take into account the situation. Some humanists may even support the theory of situation ethics, or Jeremy Bentham's utilitarianism, which looks to promote the greatest happiness for the greatest number. This is often referred to as the principle of utility. As such, providing abortion is done responsibly and in the interest of providing the best, kindest option for all, it is morally acceptable. So that's just a quick summary then of the attitudes towards abortion. If you want to do some quickfire test questions, go on Kahoot or Quizlet. If not, try some practice exam questions on the following slides. Good luck.